Newark Mayor Ras Baraka is currently second. Meanwhile, CBS News is projecting former state assemblyman Jack Ciattarelli as the winner in the Republican primary. This is his second time winning the nomination. Endorsed by President Trump, Ciattarelli with 67% of the vote. At this moment, Bill Spadea is second. This sets up a showdown for the governor's race in 147 days. That is the latest on the New Jersey state primary. I'm Don Bell. If you're watching on our streaming channel, we'll have more election coverage in just a moment. Hello again, and thanks for staying with us here on CBS News Philadelphia. I'm Don Bell. Now joined by Dan Snyder, who has been covering all of these primary races. And Dan, the one in New Jersey, obviously the one we just covered, is drawing a lot of attention nationwide. Tell the people why.
Right, it's sort of seen as a bellwether, right? It's one of those first elections after a presidential election, so everybody wants to see how people are feeling about the president. Does that play out in certain states? And in a place like New Jersey, very well may. And of course, you had the size of the field. 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans, a lot of people running, a lot coming at people all at once. So a lot of people wanted to see how this would shake out. Yeah, loaded field. If you were expecting some type of suspense tonight, that did not happen. Let's start on the Republican side. Jack Ciattarelli, his third time running for governor. He lost to Phil Murphy back in 2021 by 3%. Before that, he was an assemblyman. Ciattarelli spoke just a little while ago in Homedale, Monmouth County. Here's what he had to say.
We won because our campaign is about people, not politics. It's about vision, not division. We won because of our positive energy. We won because we talked about the issues that matter. The critical issues facing our state, and my plan for a safer, more prosperous, and affordable New Jersey.
Meanwhile, for the Democrats, Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill is your winner. She beat out Newark Mayor Ras Baraka and Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop and 3 others. Sherrill is a Navy veteran, former federal prosecutor, and a mother of 4. She spoke in Morristown earlier tonight.
So, New Jersey, are you ready? Yeah. I am too. The reason we were so successful tonight is because of all of you. I have spoken to thousands of New Jerseyans, and I've heard your stories. You told me about your hopes and your fears, your dreams and your challenges, and you told me what keeps you up at night. And here's what came through loud and clear. We love this state.
All right, with that, let's get more perspective on tonight's results. Joining us live is Chris Shields from Rutgers University and the Eagleton Institute of Politics. We just heard from Sherrill right there. Navigating a tough field is what she did during this primary. What stood out to you about her campaign?
Yeah, I guess we're all going to get to go to bed at a decent time tonight, right? You know, I think what stood out to me about her campaign is that she really was the sort of mainstream Democratic candidate. She had the support of a lot of the county parties. She had the support of the state party. And she was in a lot of ways sort of the most traditional of the Democratic candidates that were out there. She was sort of in between, not too far to the left, not too far to the right. And it seems like that spoke to a lot of New Jerseyans, and it seems like the party support really helped her, particularly with turnout, as she you know, which was so important with so many candidates there in the primary.
Chris, very little suspense on the Republican side. I think it took the AP about 17 minutes to make their call for Jack
like
Ciattarelli.
that, yeah.
We had talked before. Ciattarelli was seen as the front runner, especially after getting President Trump's endorsement. Tell us a little bit about Jack Ciattarelli.
Yeah, you know, Jack Ciattarelli also, like Mikie Sherrill, very well known in New Jersey state politics. He's been around for a number of years. As you mentioned, this is his 3rd time running for governor. So his name recognition is pretty high. You know, 4 years ago, he ran very much trying to walk the line between not upsetting the Trump voters, but also not aligning himself too closely with Trump. The difference this time is he really did court that Trump endorsement. in the primary. It'll be really interesting to see how he treats that as we head into the general election, whether he backs away from that at all or whether he really sort of embraces the help of the president.
We have had reporters go out in the field. Dan, you have done this and talked to a lot of residents in New Jersey. People talk so much about affordability. It is a big topic for both of these candidates. I mean, what do you expect to hear from both of these candidates as we get closer to November 4th?
Yeah, that's the word of the race, I think, affordability. And, you know, there are a lot of things that fit under that category. When we talk about affordability in New Jersey, you could be talking about property taxes. A lot of talk about affordable housing, particularly from the Democratic candidates. New Jersey transit, transportation issues, schools, school funding. All of these things sort of create this larger issue that the candidates are really going to have to handle. Certainly, there will be other things that come up. I think immigration will be certainly talked about. There'll be all kinds of things, that come up over the course of the fall. You know how politics is right now. But at the end of the day, I really think it is those sort of pocketbook issues, kitchen table issues, whatever you want to call them, whatever sort of political term you want to use for them. It's that affordability equation that's going to make a difference.
So, Chris, President Trump, lastly, he made his entry into this race. He endorsed Jack Ciattarelli. And, of course, all the Democrats, they had their ways where they said they would counter President Trump. A lot of people across the country look at New Jersey, Virginia's governor races as bellwethers for new presidents because they happen so quickly. What kind of role does President Trump play in this race?
I'm fascinated to see. It's interesting. President Trump he sort of loomed over both primaries in different ways, right? Because on the Republican side, you had two of the candidates really sort of fighting for his endorsement, and then on the Democratic side, you had all of the candidates fighting to see, who could fight him the best. Sort of was the conversation, right? It's a really interesting question for Jack Ciattarelli. As we've talked about before, Dan, Republicans have certainly made inroads in New Jersey. Recent election cycles, it's been closer. But they are still outnumbered by Democrats when it comes to registered voters in New Jersey. And unaffiliated voters are a huge block in New Jersey. Almost a third of the registered voters in New Jersey are unaffiliated. So for a Republican to win the governorship, which does happen with some regularity in New Jersey, they have to win. Jack Ciattarelli will have to win either some Democratic votes or a very large number of independent votes. So one of the things that he's going to have to figure out is whether that Trump endorsement, whether a potential Trump appearance in New Jersey, does that help him or hurt him with those voters as he tries to sort of broaden his tent in order to win in November.
All right, Chris Shields, beautifully done. Thank you so much for your insight. So you and I, Dan, will be waiting 147 days to see how this thing shakes out on November 4th. Thanks again.
It'll go by in a flash, I'm sure.
You know it, unless, of course, you're covering it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Again. All right, so let's take another look at the live results tonight on the Democratic side. We talked about this in our green room, and we were just wondering how it was going to shake out with all these candidates, and it's really been a wild night.
Right. It was a quicker call than I think many of us expected, but there you see the results. Mikie, Sherrill, just over a third of the vote in there. Ras Baraka, the Newark mayor, followed by Steve Fulop, the Jersey City mayor.
And we should mention that Steve Sweeney is not on this list. He's from our area, not showing up on the graphic once again, but he did well in some counties in South Jersey, but obviously falling short of the nomination. On the Republican side, we didn't expect a whole lot of drama here, and that's exactly what we got.
Yeah, Jack Ciattarelli, 2/3 of the vote there. And you look, he and Bill Spadia, those were the two that were really fighting for President Trump's endorsement there. And you see how much of the vote those two make up. But Ciattarelli gets the endorsement. Ciattarelli, he was the nominee 4 years ago, so already had a leg up. The endorsement probably just pushing him over the top, but he ends with 2/3 of the vote there.
Well, I think you better put on your comfy walking shoes. You're going to be pounding the pavement in New Jersey for the next. I know you do. Very nice shoes, by the way. So that's the latest on the New Jersey primary. We'll be back on air tonight at 11. He's Dan Snyder. I'm Don Bell, and we'll see you then.